has visited the Manchester synagogue scene, where 2 were killed and 3 injured in a terrorist attack, vying to protect the Jewish community and reinforce security on synagogues nationwide. The attacker, a British man who ran into pedestrians and stabbed a security guard, was shot dead by police. Israel has deported 4 Italian activists from the Gaza-bound global Smooth Aid Flotilla and has intercepted all boats, including one with Greta Thunberg, according to Israel's foreign ministry, sparking global protests in countries like Italy and Turkey. Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati has said that Cairo, along with Qatar and Turkey, is pressing Hamas to accept President Donald Trump's ceasefire plan to end the nearly 2-year war in Gaza. The proposal unveiled by the White House this week calls for a hostage prisoner exchange, Israeli withdrawal, Hamas disarmament, among other demands. Meanwhile, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar has rejected US President Donald Trump's 20-point Gaza plan, stating that the plan published on Monday differs from the draft proposed by Muslim-majority countries earlier. President Trump's plan aims to end the Israel-Hamas war, but Dar has emphasized that significant changes were made without their consent. French Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu has announced that he will not use Article 49.3 of the Constitution to pass the budget without a parliamentary vote. Insisting lawmakers must reach a compromise, Prime Minister has stressed that in a recently renewed parliament, emphasizing that forcing legislation is no longer acceptable. Russia has launched a massive overnight attack on Ukraine's energy infrastructure, using 381 drones and 35 missiles targeting key gas facilities in Kharkiv and Poltava regions, according to Ukrainian Energy Ministry. The attack struck several regions in eastern Ukraine, but authorities have not yet released details on the damage caused. Madagascar's capital, Antananarivo has been placed under heavy security by riot police ahead of new anti-government protests against President Andry Rajoelina. Protesters led by the Young Generations movement and backed by unions and opposition parties demand President Rajoelina's resignation over failed basic services. Vietnam's death toll from Typhoon Boaloi has now risen to 51 people, with 14 still missing and 164 injured, as the central bank urges banks to support affected businesses, according to local government reports, while the storm has caused an estimated $603 million in damage. Israel prison services have released footage that allegedly shows that detained Flotilla activists. Some of the detained Flotilla activists are believed to be held at the Katziot prison in southern Israel. This comes as the Israeli military has intercepted and boarded the Marinette, believed to be the last remaining ship sailing towards Gaza as part of the Smooth Flotilla. Israel has faced international condemnations and protests after its military had intercepted all of about 40 boats in a flotilla carrying aid to Gaza. The Global Smooth Flotilla, the organizer of the voyage, has said that more than 450 volunteers have been detained. Meanwhile, the Israeli Foreign Ministry has said in a statement that it was taking all the people it had captured from the flotilla ashore at Ashdod, and that all were safe and in good health. Now for this discussion, we're joined by Peter Baum. He's a foreign editor at Weekly Blitz, joins us live from London. Thank you very much, Peter, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, Peter, looking at this flotilla, which of 40, all of them are now intercepted, what can we say? What have they achieved, and what have they not achieved, and what was their goal there?
Their achievements have been to raise their own individual profiles and to give added propaganda to the saturation propaganda that has been, excuse me, demonizing the Jewish state of Israel. That has been their main achievement, and that was, to answer your third question, their absolute goal, just to continue the propaganda campaign against the Jewish state of Israel in order to demonize it and in order to keep the hostility amongst the pro-Islamic mob, the pro-left, the leftist mob, the communists, in the streets of European cities. And to that end, they have certainly achieved that objective. In terms of achieving any objectives for the Palestinians, absolutely nothing. Their cause has not been influenced one way or the other by the flotilla. In fact, we've seen recently, because of Trump's 21-point plan and the fact that the flotilla still feel the need to continue with their campaign, seems to me that they don't have the interests of the Palestinians at heart. They only have self-interest at heart and the interests of demonizing the Jewish state of Israel, which clearly indicates to me there is a huge group of anti-Semites amongst the flotilla, and one also has to recognize how the flotilla has been funded. And we know from documentary evidence that a shell company owned by Hamas hierarchy in Spain is funding the flotilla. So I hope I've answered your questions.
Yes, and now I wanted to ask you about the synagogue attack that has happened today. Do you think it's very late for a British government to finally start increasing security in these religious sites, especially synagogue?
Yeah, isn't it incredible that Jewish people in the United Kingdom have to have protection at their places of worship? This gives you and your viewers and listeners an idea of what life is like for the minority group of Jews in the United Kingdom, fearful of the far left and extreme Islam. And the government, unfortunately, because of the way the voting system works in the United Kingdom, is fearful of losing seats in the next election by not pandering, if they don't pander, to the Muslim mob, to the Islamic mob. And that's exactly what they're doing. Protests, even after the synagogue attack, went on celebrating the attacks in the United Kingdom. And that gives you an idea, again, of the kind of country that the United Kingdom has become. The police have lost control of the major cities. The mayors have lost control of the streets by allowing these violent, racist demonstrations occur almost nightly now, certainly at weekends. And the consequence has been that three people have been killed. The perpetrator of the crime, who was an immigrant, and a Muslim immigrant, and the two worshippers at the synagogue. And Jews in this country at the moment are fearful that similar attacks are going to happen. And all we're hearing is quite crocodile tears from the government and what they're going to do. Jews don't want more protection at synagogues. They want the marches to stop, and they want the perpetrators of the violence to be jailed and not let off, as our judiciary in the UK, once the finest judiciary in the world, are also pandering to the mob. They're fearful.
And Peter, now, thank you for sharing that. Peter, going back to the flotilla news, what plans does the Israeli government have for processing and handling these individuals now that they are in Israel?
Yeah, many of us observers of this flotilla have felt that the way the Israeli government has handled the flotilla is not in the best interest of the Israeli government. Many of us are suggesting, making our voices loud, that the Israeli government should just have let the ships land, let the people get off and walk around Gaza. Let them just do that, see what's life like for them. They should be offered no protection by the Israeli government. They've come under their own pretenses. Obviously, they haven't got tickets or passports or visas to come into the country. But I think rather than stopping the flotilla, taking them off board and then deporting them was probably, from a public relations side of things, a wrong move. And I think there would be less flotillas if those people on board, those activists, were allowed just to get off and wander around Gaza. I can assure you they would not find it palatable, and there'd be very few following them. But that's a matter for the Israeli government. From what I understand, it's gone off quite peaceably. There's been no riots. I understand also that the idea that the flotilla were bringing tons of aid is an absolute myth. In fact, there's very little aid. The only thing that the Israeli authorities has found on the boats has been the food necessary for the activists themselves, and very little in the way of providing anything for the Palestinians, which the Palestinians are being provided for anyway now by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Did you know, just as a matter of course, I've been following the GHF and what they've been doing in Gaza, and for the last 38 days now, consecutively, they have been providing over 1.5 million food aid deliveries to Gazans. And in that time, in that same 38 days, not one NGO nor medical charity working in Gaza has been able to provide the name or identity of one Gazan who has died from famine. So unfortunately, mainstream media are very reluctant to promote those facts, and still we have people believing there's a famine in Gaza when statistics that I've just relayed to you clearly show there is no such famine going on at all.
Actually, because all the journalists there were unalived in this mission, there's very less visuals or information coming in. So where are you getting these information from, Peter?
Right. So I'm getting this information from the United Nations organization themselves, and from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, but all the Western media are promoting are the statistics provided to them by the what they call the Hamas Health Authority. There's no such thing as a Hamas Health Authority. It's a Hamas propaganda arm, which is being relocated in different locations as the Israelis continue their incursion into Gaza. So any journalist with any sense of the ability to research these things can go onto all the major websites such as the GHF, even UNRWA and COGAT, and they will find the same information that I've just relayed to you, which unfortunately is not being widely publicized.
Right. And Peter, is there any, we just a few days ago this week, we found out that Red Crescent is no longer in Gaza. So are there any other international organizations that's still there?
Well, the GHF is there, but UNRWA, because the UNRWA business model has been broken, refuses to work with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Now, just think about this. UNRWA has been the agency completely associated with Palestinians since the 1950s. If UNRWA had been doing its job correctly, there would have been no need for UNRWA. But it's not, because UNRWA facilitates the ongoing conflict, and UNRWA staff have been Hamas operatives too. UNRWA will not work with the GHF, even though the GHF are now the main provider of aid to the Palestinians. Now, if UNRWA really wanted to help the Palestinians, they would be using any channel necessary to assist them, but they're not, which gives you, again, some idea of what the objectives of UNRWA are all about, which is purely to ensure the conflict continues. And unfortunately for them, Trump and the government of Israel have seen through their objectives and are saying no longer we're going to put up with it. And as each day goes by, their influence becomes more and more diluted.
And Peter, lastly, how is this news covered in UK?
Isn't that a great story? Unfortunately, it's not covered in the UK, and let me explain why. The BBC are run by a left-wing ideology, and anything positive regarding the Jewish state of Israel will never be promoted by the media in the mainstream media in the UK. There has been a pushback. For the first time ever, one right-of-centre news channel, GB News, has overtaken the BBC in its daily news coverage in terms of the number of viewers. So we're in the UK at the moment, we have been subject to decades of left-wing, anti-Israeli, anti-Judeo-Christian values and ideology, and for the first time since I've been a political researcher, we have now a pushback where some right-wing media is gaining the upper hand. So all I can say is watch this space. The BBC, I'm afraid, no longer has the trust of the vast majority of the British people. It's known as the biased, bigoted corporation as opposed to the British Broadcasting Corporation.
Thank you very much, Peter, for sharing
My
that
pleasure.
insight. Thank you. Now we move on. The United Nations, in their words, has called the idea of a safe zone in southern Gaza farcical, warning that there is no place for Palestinians to seek shelter amid the ongoing offensive. UNICEF spokesman James Elder, speaking from Gaza, has further highlighted that schools and temporary shelters designated for civilians have been targeted, offering no real protection. Let's listen in.
As we've spoken about many times, going back as far as December 2023, the notion of a safe zone in the south is farcical. Bombs are dropped from the sky with chilling predictability. Schools, which had been designated as temporary shelters, are regularly reduced to rubble. Tents get pitched in areas and they, of course, offer no protection from shrapnel. And indeed, those same tents, as we've seen, are regularly engulfed in fire from air attacks.
Now, United Nations comments came as Israel continues its largest offensive in Gaza this month. Israeli tanks have blocked the main road to Gaza City, preventing residents who have fled from returning. Meanwhile, the Israeli defense minister has described this as the last chance for people to move to south, where Israel claims that it has established a humanitarian zone for displaced Palestinians in Khan Yunis. The United Nations estimates that 600,000 to 700,000 Palestinians remain inside of Gaza City, while those moving south face military vetting as Israel aims to isolate Hamas operatives in the city. Moreover, Palestinian residents report that sand barriers and military checks have made movement difficult, with many choosing to stay rather than leave. Medical facilities have also been impacted, with 4 closing due to the intensifying ground assault. Health authorities reported that at least 9 civilians were killed in yesterday's strikes near a community kitchen in the Al-Mawasi region. Now we move on to Europe. British police on Thursday identified the man behind the deadly attack outside a Manchester synagogue, which has left 2 people dead and 3 injured in a terrorist attack. Greater Manchester Police has confirmed the identity of the attacker as Jihad al-Shami, a UK citizen of Syrian origin. He was shot dead by officers after he rammed a car into worshippers outside the Heaton Park Hebrew Congregation Synagogue in Crumpsall and then began stabbing people. Meanwhile, Manchester residents paid tribute to the two Jewish victims of the attack. Let's listen in to some of the residents.
And then after they loaded up in the cars and drove off, and the minibus drove off, and the police van came in, literally came to the Crescent, they opened the side of the police van, and there must have been about 15 police officers that got out the van and went straight into number 1 Langley Crescent. And I'm thinking, this is not normal. Quite scary, to be truthful. Quite scary indeed, knowing that a terrorist is living under my nose. You know, from here to that address, what is it, 2-minute walk, if that. And to have somebody like that living on my estate is scary, very scary.
Has there been any, I mean, I know there's no real indication of this kind of thing usually, but have you ever had any indication of any trouble in that Crescent?
No, never.
Now we move on. Tensions remain high in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, where daily life and markets have come to a standstill following days of violent protests over governance and civil rights. The unrest was driven by a region-wide strike led by the Jammu Kashmir Joint Awami Action Committee. Reportedly, thousands have gathered today for the funerals of those killed. As community anger deepens, meanwhile, protest leaders have accused security forces of firing on demonstrators. Let's listen in.
जम्मू और कश्मीर ज्वाइंट अवामी एक्शन कमेटी की एक पुरअमन लॉकडाउन की कॉल थी, उसके ऊपर तमाम शहरियान मुजफ्फराबाद पुरअमन तरीके से नीलम पुल के ऊपर अपना एहतजाज रिकॉर्ड करा रहे थे, जबकि चंद लोग, चंद सहूलतकार, अदारों के सहूलतकार, अदारों के पे रोल पे अदारों का असला लिए इंतजामिया और पुलिस की मौजूदगी में, FCPC की मौजूदगी में वो वहाँ पे आए और उन्होंने हमारे पंडाल के ऊपर डायरेक्ट फायरिंग की, जिसके एविडेंस हमारे पास मौजूद हैं। हम उसकी वजह से हमारा एक नौजवान शहीद हो गया, 20 जो है वो डायरेक्ट फायरिंग से जख्मी हो गए। हम किसी भी सूरत इस कत्ल को माफ नहीं करेंगे।
अभी चूँकि इन वादों पे मुकम्मल तरीके से अमल दरामद नहीं हुआ, तो इसमें जो कोटा है हमारा 25% जो दिया जा रहा है 1947 के महाजरीन जम्मू कश्मीर को, वो भी इसके अंदर शामिल हो गया, क्योंकि यहाँ बेरोजगारी की जो शरह है वो बहुत ज़्यादा है। नौजवानों में 64% नौजवान है, तो वो जॉबलेस हैं। तो वो जो 25% कोटा अभी तक 1947 से लेकर 4 नस्लें आ गई हैं, उनको दिया जा रहा है। तो यहाँ पर ये एहतजाज भी है कि ये कोटा सिस्टम बिल्कुल ख़त्म हो जाना चाहिए।
With communication services cut across the region, the flow of information remains severely restricted. In response, Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has announced the formation of an investigative committee and is urging all sides to pursue dialogue. Now for this discussion, we're joined by retired Major General Gigi Dwivedi. He's a defense analyst, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much for joining us today. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, can you tell us the story or background of what has prompted this demonstrators in that region?
Thank you so much. First and foremost, we need to understand the larger background, and then I'll specifically come to this issue, what is on in the Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. You see, whether you take Pakistan government or you take the military, their record as far as handling the minorities or the minority areas, be it Balochistan, be it Pakistan, Pakistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, or be it the Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, there have been consistent human rights violations, exploitation of the regions, and practically no development has taken place. So therefore, this is the larger background of the Pakistani minorities or the minority areas of Pakistan. Now coming to specifically on Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, these protests actually haven't started only a few days back. There's a background. Almost 2 years back, there have been demand by the Joint Awami Action Committee that there is need to lower down the electricity bills. They also asked for subsidy, and there's also been resentment against the reservations of about 25% for the people who are from erstwhile, refugees, and there are 12 seats also earmarked for them. So these have been going on, but unfortunately, Pakistan government has taken no concrete action, and at the end of it, the people have lost their patience and they came on the streets. Basically, it was peaceful protest, but it turned violent because when excessive force was used against the protesters, well, then there have been casualties. About 12 people have been killed, and these protests also spread to Muzaffarabad, to Kotli, and to couple of other places like Rawalakot. Now the situation is that people are actually pented up, they are anguished because force have been used against them, and they were actually protesting very peacefully, and there have been casualties. While the government has constituted a committee, but that's mostly a hogwash, because at the end of it, people know that nothing much is going to come out, and their protests are genuine, but there's a larger angle to it, because they're also very annoyed with the corruption that is being undertaken by the politicians and also by the military. So combined all this, the people are very resentful. They have very genuine demands, but unfortunately, inaction on the part of government has led to the current situation. Asuma.
And Major General G.G. Dwivedi, in light of these accusations that security forces opened fire on peaceful protesters, what are the potential legal and political consequences for those responsible?
Well, the point is that there will be no concrete action taken against them, because, as I said, that Pakistan government or the deep state or the local administration has a very, very hostile attitude toward the locals. And in Pakistan, really, people feel that Pakistan only Punjab state. The other states are given stepmotherly treatment. And I'm quite sure that in this episode also, in this instance also, nothing very much is going to come out. And these issues are going to be as they are. Well, temporarily, there may be the quick band solution or some kind of interim relief. But largely, the issues are not going to be addressed, because these issues are on for last very many years. So I think that people are used to this human rights violation. They are used to the excessive use of force by the law enforcement agencies. And I think this issue will also go into the background and die its natural death, because at the end of it, nothing much is going to come out. But the point is that these protests are not going to die down so easily, because people are at the tenterhooks, and they want certain concrete action, which ironically is not going to come through, because that's the attitude of the government toward the minorities and toward the minority inhabited areas. Asuma.
With that, I would like to thank Major General G.G. Dwivedi for joining us and sharing your insight on this topic. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Europe. Germany's Munich airport has resumed normal service after several drone sightings forced its closure overnight, the latest in a string of similar aviation disruption across Europe. Airports in Denmark, Norway, and Poland have recently suspended flights due to unidentified drones, while Romania and Estonia have pointed that finger at Russia, which has brushed off the allegations. Munich became the latest to close its airspace last night after several drone sightings, causing more than 30 flights to be cancelled or diverted and leaving nearly 3,000 passengers stranded. Passengers have praised Munich airport authorities, saying they feel very safe inside the German airport. Let's listen in.
Well, I have to trust, because these things happen all the time, and I just want to check that there's good security and that I can see that there's some decent people checking everything. And it was the same that happened when we were going to Oktoberfest. They had to close everything because of the family scenario, and but it seems that you've got very good security here in Munich, so I feel pretty safe.
Well, that we actually discussed it in the taxi coming here, and we don't really understand the reason behind what is it. Everyone supposes it's Russia, and I do as well. And then why are they doing it? What do they want to provoke with this? It's strange and a bit worrying.
Now we move on. Taylor Swift's latest studio album, The Life of a Showgirl, has arrived with a promotional blitz that includes midnight sales at Target stores, a release party at movie theaters around the globe, and pop-up experiences in New York and Los Angeles. The release follows the Tortured Poets Department, Swift's 11th studio album, which debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 album chart and sold the equivalent of 8 million albums in the United States, according to Luminate, a firm that tracks music sales. Swift has been building anticipation for the new album since August 11th, when she posted a countdown on her website that kept fans waiting until around 12 a.m. Eastern Time on August 12, when she revealed the name of her 12th album, The Life of a Showgirl. Let's take a look at what some of her fans who had gathered at a pop-up event in New York hours before the release of the singer's new album have said.
We haven't had any sneak peeks yet, but it has the same producers as my favorite album of hers, Reputation, so I have a feeling I'm going to be really happy with whatever I hear.
Because I just love her so much. I actually flew to Amsterdam to see her, which is crazy. Everyone told me it was crazy. But, so that's why I'm here today. That's why I waited 2.5 hours to see. I know she's not here, but I just want to see everything that this album's about. I love the whole concept of it, the showgirl, her life behind scenes. So I'm just here to support her in any way that I can.
This is all we have time for. We will continue to bring you more news updates from around the world.